Anybody home? Hello.
Yep. Could you please mute yourself?
Sure.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Common Council meeting Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Meeting of the City of Port Washington Common Council. Roll call. All members are present with Alderman Sigwart joining us by phone. I would like at this time my special guest, who was invited by her father, to come up here and join me. So Mela, could you please come up over here, please? Mela is here tonight to help us do the Pledge of Allegiance. Her sister wore her sparkly boots, special for tonight. So please join me in standing. Stand up on the chair because then everybody can see you. Okay. Hand over your heart, look at the flag, and start us off. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, no, stay here for a second. So, Mela, I am a teacher, and I was pretty excited when I saw your name. Do you know what your name means? You know what Mela means in Swedish? No. It means lily pad. It also means beautiful girl, and it means fierce warrior. Could you promise to be all those three things for us? Beautiful and fierce? Okay, thank you for tonight. All right, hop off. There you go. Thank you, kiddo. All right, and with that, I would like aldermen from wards 1, 3, 5, and 7 to step up front with our city clerk to be sworn in for their next term.
All right, for District 1, Deborah Postel. District 3, Michael Gasper. District 5, Jonathan Pleitner. District 7, John Sigwart. Do you, having been elected to the office of alderperson for your districts in the city of Port Washington, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, and that will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
Welcome.
Congratulations. Okay, with that, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's discussion.
So moved.
Moved and second. All right. Any questions or concerns on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Excellent. Motion passes. Under mayor's business, I've got appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. Tonight, I only have, am asking to reappoint the council members to their boards, commissions, and committees at the beginning of May. Since the terms end at the end of April, I'll bring a slate for May, still waiting back on a couple of other people. Otherwise, design, or yeah, that's what I'd be looking for that motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right. I have nothing for mayor updates tonight other than to encourage the community to get out this weekend and support our local businesses. So moving into that, under officers and staff reports, be looking for the election of our council president. So are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Alderman Benning.
Got a nomination for Alderman Benning and seconded. Seconded by Alderman Newmeyer. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that out and call for a vote. All in favor of Alderman Benning serving as council president, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Benning. I'll be gone in July.
You're stuck with me.
City's all yours, baby. Second is to approve the official city newspaper being the Ozaki Press. Is there such a motion?
To approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Third is to designate the official city depository as Port Washington State Bank, BMO Harris Bank, Ellers Investment Management, and Local and Government Investment Pool. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Benning, seconded by Alderman Pleitner. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. That leads us into the department's monthly reports. Just again, want to say thank you to all of the department heads. I greatly enjoy reading this and cannot wait for it to become just a regular cadence in our communication with the community. Love the photos that are in there. We got to get everybody a drone, like Park and Rec has. All right, any other questions on the departmental monthly reports? Okay. We'll move into public comments. You are welcome to make public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you need more time, contact the city administrator and ask that your topic be placed on the common council agenda. Chief, Peter, Chris, any public comments? Any public comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move into standing council committees, finance and license committee, consideration and possible action on bids for the 2023 City Hall roof replacement. The staff is recommending that the 2023 City Hall roof replacement project be awarded to FJA Christensen Roofing Company Incorporated for the base bid amount and recommends rejecting the alternate addition for a reflective roof. The recommended motion is to approve that. Jonathan or
I can quick kick it off. Yeah, so the roof here on City Hall was most recently installed in 2005. It's a 15-year roof. So if you do the math, we're about 3 years beyond its warranty. It's a ballasted roof. We're recommending replacing it with a fully adhered roof, which is has a 30-year warranty on it. We have numerous leaks in the building and we've had now for the past 2 to 3 years. And it is ready for replacement. And so this has been put out to bid by our roofing consultant Garland Company. We received 5 bidders, and the low bid was FJ Christensen. They are recommended for award by our consultant, and it is also recommended by the Board of Public Works and the Finance Committee. This is over our budgeted amount by approximately $95,000, and we are recommending that the $95,000 shortfall be reallocated from the street improvement project, which had a surplus of $125,000 this year. And the motion is, I move to award the City Hall roof replacement project to FJA Christensen Roofing Company for $320,457 and to reject the alternative bid.
is there anyone willing to make that motion or questions?
I'll move that we accept or that we award the City Hall roof replacement project to FJA Christensen Roofing Company for $320,457 and reject the alternate bid.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the bid or the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes.
brings us into consideration and possible action on change order number 2 for the Marina Underground Storage Tanks Replacement Project. The issue is, should the City Council approve the change order for the Marina Underground Storage Tanks? The staff recommends that the Board of Public Works approve recommended that the Board of Public Works approve change order number 2 for the Marina Underground Storage Replacement Project. Rob?
Okay, yeah, and I apologize, that staff recommendation that has been recommended by the Board of Public Works to the City Council for approval of this change order. This change order was necessitated by the DATCAP review, which is the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. They performed the permit review of the work that we're proposing to replace the two underground storage tanks at the marina. We would like to complete this work by May 15th, and to keep on that schedule, we do need to receive a permit from DATCAP, which we will not have unless we add a sump on the floating pier, which comes at a price of $27,600. This puts us $27,600 over our budget, and so we recommend also reallocating that amount from the $125,000 surplus in the budgeted amount for street improvement projects this year. And so the recommended motion is I move to approve change order number 2 for $27,600.
All right, any conversation, Jonathan?
Just a quick question. So is it always that DATCAP would require a floating dock sump and a landside sump as well then, Rob?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a recent, how recent is that?
Yes, I understand that is become part of their code in the last 2 years.
Anything from Harbor Commission? No, any questions or concerns? Then is there a motion?
I have a question for Rob.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sigwart.
Well, under the time on the change order, it has just been ignored, so I'm presuming that the contractor can make May 15th deadline.
Yes, essentially, right. What is going to, essentially the critical path is receiving this permit approval from DATCAP. The contractor is ready to go as soon as we receive the permit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gasper?
I did have one thing from Harbor Commission on it, which is that the harbor master is still endeavoring to convince DNR by having them come down there that this is unnecessary, since they're looking at this as a one-size-fit-all policy for floating piers. Our floating piers have pilings through it that would make them almost impossible to break loose and float away. But the DNR, you're never going to convince them of that, but they're trying.
All right.
So
I would just request that if we have a meeting with the DNR and our harbor master, that engineering or public works director is there as well. That should not happen alone, please. Okay?
Yes.
All right, so then is there a motion for the work order 2, change order 2?
I'll move to approve change order number 2 for $27,600.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Excellent, motion passes. All right, first reading, ordinance 2023-9, an ordinance providing for the installation of stop signs. This is a first reading, and the question is, should the city install a stop sign at Sauk Road on Misty Ridge Lane and provide 2 stop signs on Highland Point Way at Misty Ridge Lane? The staff recommends adopting ordinance 2023-9, requiring a stop sign on Misty Ridge Lane at the intersection with Sauk Road and a stop sign in each direction on Highland Point Way at the intersection with Misty Ridge Lane. This is a first reading only. Rob?
Sure. So these streets were just paved last November, actually. This is in Highland Point. And as homes are being built, it is time to pass an order. We have stop signs in place, but it is time to codify them so that we will have that ordinance in place for, again, a stop sign on Misty Ridge Lane at Sauk Road, which of course makes sense. And then Misty Ridge Lane is going to be a main thoroughfare. Highland Point Way is a secondary cross street, and so we're recommending a stop sign in each direction there.
Any questions? Anything from traffic safety? We're good? Okay. Then I'm going to call to order a public hearing to amend section 20-2034-300 of the City of Port Washington zoning code regarding allowable uses and building materials in the OAG arterial gateway overlay district. Notice was given that the subject of the hearing is to amend section 20-3430 of the city's zoning code regarding allowable uses and building materials in the OAG arterial gateway overlay district. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Any opposition? Any opposition? The hearing is closed. That moves us into agenda item on ordinance 2023-8 relating to regulations within the OAG arterial gateway zoning overlay district, and this is a second reading. Common Council is being asked to amend language in the arterial gateway overlay zoning district. That needs to be like amended to just AGOZD to remove dedicated used motor vehicles, sales, lumber, and building supply yards, indoor self-storage facilities, and boat sales and service operations from the listing of allowable uses in the main entrances to the city. The proposed ordinance will also eliminate the requirement for a special plan commission meeting and allow for the use of additional exterior building materials. The staff has recommended the Common Council approve ordinance 2023-8. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I agree. The OAG often tripped me up while writing this as well. The intent of this overlay was really to put into the entrances of the city at 32, Highway 32, Highway 33, South Wisconsin, and North Wisconsin, and put in at those entrances in a zoning overlay to really, the intent of the ordinance was to kind of raise the development and use standards as one enters the city. And going through the list of uses, it was felt by both myself and the Plan Commission, there were a couple of lower density uses that probably didn't meet the spirit of intent of this overlay. And so we are removing those uses, as you pointed out in your summary, from the list of allowable uses in that overlay. And we're also updating allowable exterior building materials for this. We had the architects on the Plan Commission kind of weigh in on this one, and so we added some more metal and paneling type of materials that probably were not contemplated when they updated this ordinance last in 2014. And then lastly was just an administrative item to this was currently if there was a use not listed under the overlay listings, an application would come in and a special plan commission meeting was asked for. I thought just a regular meeting would be sufficient in this case. And so those are the three components of the ordinance change. And with that, I'm asking the council to adopt ordinance 2023-8.
Any conversation or questions? Alderman Pleitner.
I was really happy to see this because as a West Side resident in Hidden Hills, West Side, it keeps sort of undesirable properties and businesses from, keeping the entrances to our city beautiful and making them attractive to visitors and tourists and people that live here in general. So I'm heartily in favor of this. I look at it as a way to clean up our city code further. And to that end, I would make a motion to approve ordinance 8.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Alderman moved and seconded. Alderman Postle seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Yes, Mr. Tierney.
Bob, I know I sent you an email kind of asking this question. You kind of got back to me on it. And anyone from the Plan Commission, the one thing that occurred to me, are we in effect saying that we don't want, for instance, boat sales in the city? Because if we're going to say they can't be on the entranceways, where else are they going to go? I'm just asking, is that what we're in effect doing? Are there places where if we would want one of these, I could see where our boat sales might actually make sense in Port Washington, but where would we put them if we're not going to put them at the entranceways? Is there another place they could go?
Or you want to start, Bob? I mean, I can't really answer that question. I mean, Great Lakes Marina is in the town of Port Washington with 2 facilities but no, there are no boat sales in Port Washington.
No, I mean, I believe boat sales are currently allowable in downtown zoning in the
Yeah.
B4, but I think that's a leftover from a previous time. As of now, I don't think there's no boat sales. And if there would be, I think it would be more appropriate in industrial zones. I don't think it is right now. It's just that they tend to be a larger, less dense land use. And so I think in the business districts, I think, I think you want something a little more denser, a little more heavier. So does not mean if there was all of a sudden a boat sale that came in, is always the change in the zoning text as well.
That's a good question, though. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I know
Mayor?
I've beat this up before, but we're not, this does not take adverse action to the two maintenance facilities down there that tend to sell some of their cars that they buy back from customers. They can continue to do that?
Yeah, auto services remain within that overlay. There's some good businesses that are in these areas, and car services are not going to be removed as a use.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so this has been moved and seconded. Any other concerns, questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right.
One comment.
Yes,
This
Mr. Benning.
doesn't pertain to what we just voted on, but Bob, I think we need to look at the LL from the north as a main entry to the city. Not just Wisconsin, but, up there by the old Country Inn. And as that development along that corridor starts to happen, that ought to be zoned as one of these gateway areas.
Yeah, there is just where the mobile gas is,
Right.
and then as you
But
say.
we need to go
Yeah.
up further, because that's going to be the main entry from the north. Well, I'm
Yeah,
just
so-
saying, coming down LL,
Yeah, so westbound on LL Alderman Benning, coming from Belgium. Yeah, so east of the highway. Yeah, I would agree. I don't think the mobile, never mind. Okay, so that takes us into Board of Public Works, consideration of possible action on an easement for We Energies at the water filtration plant. The issue is, should the city of Port Washington approve an easement to We Energies for relocation of transformers and upgrading the power supply to the water filtration plant? Staff recommends that the city approve the easement to We Energies. Rob?
So these are two easements to the plant. The one on the north side is, runs along Lake Street, and that is an upgrade to existing power. In order to provide that, they are requiring an easement be provided behind the sidewalk. The second one supplies power to our secondary power supply. The existing transformer essentially is located within the footprint of the new building, so we are going to need to move that transformer. They're proposing moving it to the rear of the plant on the east side. That will require, again, some rewiring. And in order to do that, they do need an easement to run that energy from the former Jackson Street right-of-way to the new transformer that's proposed in the, included in the sketch that's in your packet.
Any questions for Rob? Mr. Benning?
on the transformer move, that's the existing building in that diagram, correct?
In which? In Exhibit A or the?
Yeah, Exhibit A.
Exhibit A, it shows the existing building and the proposed building.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm trying to locate where this is gonna end up being. Is it on the east side of the current bike path?
Yes.
So it's gonna be over there within the splash zone of the lake?
Yes. Yeah,
And they're okay with that?
they're the ones who proposed putting it there, so I assumed
Okay.
I assumed they knew about the lake, so I thought the same thing. but I
They being
figured-
We Energies?
Yeah, so but I agree, I had the same thought myself, but it's not going to be flooded, it's,
It's splashing. I mean,
yeah, so, I'm sure they're completely weather tight.
Well, We'll find out when, we'll find out when Alderman Postel's and my power goes out when a wave hits it.
Okay.
Thank you for that inquiry. I'm sure they'll fit.
With that, I'll recommend approval.
All right, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Mr. Gasper?
I had one comment on it, which is, I'm not a huge fan of these completely indeterminate easements, that there's some rough location that a 15-foot easement's going to go through, but we don't really say where, except that we're restricted in how we can use it for going forward. And I know it's how We Energies normally does it, but they also sometimes will be like, you know, the 15-foot easement, it's the western 15 feet of the parcel, not through here. It's approximately this line, but who knows? And that's the way these are written. And I think they're kind of lazy on the power companies from their perspective, or from our perspective, the power companies being lazy.
Okay. Moved and seconded? Yes, counsel.
Thank you, Mayor. To Alderman Gasper's point, I don't think it made it into your electronic packet, but just yesterday afternoon, I received from Doug Hartman of We Energies, and I can pass these and circulate them among the alders. These survey drawings, rather than the colored photos, I think went out with the packet, which more accurately depict the location of the center line of each of these 15-foot easements. So I'll send them this way, and then they can come back the other way. But those will become the Exhibit A to each of the two easements, rather than the aerial Google map, whatever was sent out. Sorry for that.
No, it's okay.
Late arrival, sorry.
Counsel, anything in there that would need to be adjusted or change the motion that's on the floor?
No.
Okay. All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. That brings us into a review of municipal separated storm sewer MS4 permit annual report. State of Wisconsin requires that every municipality covered by a municipal separated storm sewer MS4 permit review its annual report with the governing body. The staff recommends the city council accept the report as presented. Rob,
Okay, all right. So there's a
do we need
highlighted-
like popcorn and ottomans?
Yeah, sit back. I'm ready to talk.
Here we go.
Storm sewers. So this is, yes, this is an annual requirement of our MS4 permit, which again is municipal separated storm sewer system. We are a permitted community because of our size and proximity to Lake Michigan and the Milwaukee River. So there's a few things in here. There's 7 points within the permit program that we need to meet every year. One is public education and outreach. We mostly meet that through the internet. We used to do more before COVID and hope to do more moving forward. We've talked a little bit, so well, one thing we do on a continual basis is, you know, we used to stencil around inlets, but of course that's kind of non-permanent. Now you may notice that anytime we replace a catch basin, actually printed into the cast iron, it says not to put anything into the storm sewer system because it drains either to fresh water, to the lake, or the river. So hopefully that type of education reaches people when they're about to throw their cigarette butt or a Coke can in the storm water inlet, because, you know, people should know but probably don't. Anything that goes into the storm sewer system is, if you throw it into the gutter, it's the same thing as standing right on the shoreline and throwing it into the lake, because it does not go to our treatment plant. So there's more information you can find on our website for anyone who wants information on rain barrels or rain gardens, or there's information about the proper amount of salt you should put on your sidewalk, because of course, once that gets into the Great Lake system, it never comes out. So it's something that we're trying to do as a municipality, reduce the amount of salt we're using, use it more judiciously so that it's still just as effective in treating our roads. And it's the same thing at people's homes. I think they don't realize you don't need as much salt as people put down on their sidewalks. So So that's public education and outreach, public involvement and participation. Probably the biggest thing we did this year is, we participated in Love Our Great Lakes Day, which was held in October. And there were a couple sites we teamed with the Lakeshore Natural Resources Partnership. And so there's public education and outreach involved in that event. So we're looking at doing, again, more of that as we and everyone else kind of emerge out of our COVID bubble. Illicit discharge detection and elimination. So we have several major storm sewer outfalls that every year our own street department tests for contaminants. So if they find these contaminants that are listed here on this memo, then we'll trace to see where these are coming from, just in case there's either an illicit discharge, which means, for instance, someone's pouring used motor oil down the sewer system, or there might be some connection that is illegally going to the storm sewer system. So typically we don't find anything of that nature, but these do happen from time to time. If, for instance, there's a hydraulic leak or something on a garbage truck, we want to make sure right away that we're getting that stopped before it goes into the storm sewer system. And then if it would, we would report that to the DNR. All right, and then construction site pollutant control. So we have an erosion control ordinance that's enforced as part of the, so we enforce that ordinance during the construction or the development of the site itself. And then Gary Peterson, our building inspector, he enforces the erosion control permits that each home has to have. So once the site is developed, then it essentially falls on building inspection to make sure that builders are keeping erosion from leaving the site. And then post-construction stormwater management, so that's essentially the city inspecting both municipally owned ponds as well as private BMPs, which are best management practices, which are typically going to either be ponds or they could be biofiltration swales or rain gardens, things like that. And so that's something, again, with bringing Roger on, we hope to become more aggressive in our yearly inspections of those BMPs. All right, then moving on to pollution prevention practices for the municipality. So, for instance, last year we had what's called a SWIP, which is a stormwater pollution prevention plan for our street department, which identifies potential sources of contaminants that can enter the storm sewer system. I was pleased to find out that there's not a lot of problems down there, but we are working on making sure that, again, we're not discharging anything into the storm sewer or especially problems with erosion. So eventually we'd like to get that all paved back there. It's kind of a muddy mess, quite honestly. And so that enters the storm sewer system. We want to keep those solids out of the storm sewer system. Okay, so yep, I just touched on TSS. We are required to on any new development to contain 80% of the total suspended solids in new development. It's 40% for redevelopment. And then the storm sewer system map. So we have to keep a current storm sewer system map on file at the DNR. And so if there's any changes that occur within the city, we send in a new map to the DNR every year. And then real quickly, we do have some upcoming requirements that we'll have to follow because the city has a small portion of its southern end in what's called the Milwaukee River TMDL, which is total maximum daily load, which is a little more stringent than the overall statewide permit. And so we have listed again in the memo what will need to occur in order to meet these requirements. So we're falling just a little bit short on our phosphorus and suspended solids. So We are looking at ways to come into compliance by October 31st. And then we will have to, as it says here, select and implement at least 3 of the following. So there's these various methods in order to, again, increase treatment of stormwater runoff as part of this TMDL, submit a bacteria source elimination plan, so that kind of goes hand in hand with what the ordinance that we passed, I think in the last couple of months regarding dumpsters and possible leaking of bacteria. And then we'll have to submit documentation of the DNR, and then it'll be almost time to do this again. So we do anticipate becoming part of the Northeast Lakeshore TMDL, so that runs from Sturgeon Bay down to Port Washington. So we're on the southern end of it, and we're on the northern end of the Milwaukee River TMDL. So we have the pleasure of falling into 2 different ones and meeting those requirements. So they're still developing the requirements for the Northeast Lakeshore TMDL. We have some idea what they're going to be, but I guess stay tuned for those requirements. And unless you would like more, that wraps up this year's required annual report.
Any questions or clarifications for Rob?
Just a quick one for me. Any other, even though we passed the ordinance around leaky dumpsters over the last month, the way it reads, like submitting a bacteria source elimination plan, are there any other potential sources of bacteria that you'll be exploring, Rob?
You know, great question.
Just cheese curds.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure there are, you know, perhaps something like our fish cleaning station or something like that might be another source.
Mr. Benning? Oh, no, okay. Otherwise, I would be looking for a motion to accept the MS4 permit annual report.
The nerd in me really enjoyed reading this, so I move to accept the MS4 permit annual report.
Let's make sure that it states Alderwoman Postel, not the nerd, in the minutes. All right, is there a second? I'll second. Seconded, okay. Any questions or concerns? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, Rob, thank you for that. All right, next we're going to go into consideration and possible action on an easement agreement between the City of Port Washington and Harbor Lights Condominium Association Incorporated. Issue is, should the Common Council approve an easement agreement for Harbor Lights to have the non-exclusionary right to use city land for purposes of installing, maintaining, repairing, and replacing an underground stormwater lateral serving the Harbor Lights condominium. Staff recommends approval of this easement, and I'm going to turn it over to our council.
Thank you, Mayor. So this easement, like the one involving We Energies, an easement is a right of use of land owned by another. So this easement would be a grant from the city to Harbor Lights Condo Association to use part of the public alley that separates the Port Explorium on the north and I believe Schooner Pub on the south. Beneath that alley, there is a underground stormwater lateral, and that serves the property farther north. That is the Harbor Lights condominium. That's not a new arrival on the scene. That infrastructure's been there for some time. But this easement agreement is necessary to formalize the permissive use of that underground stormwater lateral to the extent it encroaches on city property. I think most of it, frankly, not being an engineer, it's my understanding, lies beneath the Port Explorium building, and only a small, very small portion, as you can see by Exhibit A, to the easement agreement would be within or underneath the city's alleyway. So this is a legal document that gives this right. It's a non-exclusive easement. It's a permanent easement. This document, if approved, will be recorded. It puts the responsibility to maintain, repair, and replace the underground stormwater laterals on the condominium association. It requires further that the condo association indemnify or hold harmless, as lawyers say, to protect the city from any claims that any persons might raise for injury, death, or damage to property arising out of the condo association's use of the lateral. And this document, you should know, is very similar to similar easement granted also to Harbor Lights by the Port Washington Historical Society. The document you have sort of a collaborative effort between Attorney Bruce McElney, representing the Condo Association, Attorney Bob Hinkle, who's assisting the Historical Society, and yours truly. One important point I want to bring forward is that if you're inclined to approve this easement, you should do it conditional upon the Renew Port Holdings Roman numeral 1 entity granting the city a quit-claim deed to a 10-foot strip of land east of the Port Explorium building. You may remember not so very long ago, this body granted an easement that would allow the Historical Society to use the first floor ground level for, I think, part of a patio deck, and then the elevated second floor deck as well, which are structures exist over the city's underground utilities there. There was some question once upon a time raised by the title company as to whether the city in fact owned that 10-foot strip of land. I looked into that on my own and reviewed the research of the title company. I respectfully disagree. I don't think there's much question about it. But to resolve that lingering issue once and for all, this easement, if you're going to approve it, should be made conditional on the subsequent execution and delivery of a quit-claim deed by which the condo or Renew Port Holdings gives up any claim, right, title, or interest it might have to that 10-foot strip to the east. So this is legal housekeeping. It's important, but it's strictly transactional. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
So the recommended motion then is to approve the easement agreement with a conditional quit-claim deed.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions for council? I appreciate your work on this. I know that you guys have been doing this for quite a bit, so grateful for that. Is there a motion then? So the motion would be to recommend the easement agreement with a conditional quit-claim deed attached.
I move to approve with a conditional quit-claim deed attached.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Any questions or concerns? Thank you, Mr. Sigwart. Any questions on the motion? Better easement, Mr. Gasper? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, final agenda item for the evening is an ordinance 2023-10, amending ordinances relating to compulsory connections to and use of sewer and water mains and systems. This is a first reading, and the issue is should the Common Council adopt an ordinance to mirror 28.45 of the Wisconsin state statutes regarding connections to public sewers and water mains and systems. Mr. Brown, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get into the specific item before you, I just wanted to provide some context. So in the strategic plan that the city adopted, strategic direction number 2 is creating accountability through policies and procedures. And one of the action steps included in there is to create policy processes to assess and update city ordinances. So it's kind of a broader project. Staff has been undertaking a number of efforts to do that. You've seen that already by way of some of the modifications that Mr. Harris has undertaken over the past few years. In addition to that, both the city attorney and city clerk have gotten to a point where they've concluded recodification. So the council will see that probably, I think, in June. Is that right? And then there's other pieces such as this that we're undertaking because we identified them as priority items to review and then also update as part of modernizing the code. So before you this evening, we're proposing changes to how buildings constructed for human habitation are connected to public utilities, namely sewers and water mains and systems. And this is really intended to just align with state statute. There's a number of modifications. I won't go through all of them, but to give you just a little bit of a flavor of what this looks like, there's a reference to public sewers and water mains laid along and within public streets. So that's part of the ordinance as it currently stands. But state statute makes no mention of public streets or private streets. Another readiness requirement that's in the existing ordinance is that water mains must be ready for use. Again, state statute doesn't have those readiness requirements. So there's those types of modifications that we're making, and then probably a couple other ones that aren't directly related to aligning with state statute is that we changed the fees so that the sewer connection fees aren't identified within the code. They're just referenced to the fee schedule, so that is a more administratively less burdensome process to update those as needed. And then the other piece is that we changed just the language with regard to how the connection fees are deposited. As it stands right now, it's very specific to how the funds are utilized. And we created it so that it's more generalized with any sewer connection fees that we would receive, that they would be deposited into the wastewater utility fund for the operations, maintenance, replacement, and expansion of utility facilities and also the system as well. So with that, I know this is a first reading, but staff recommends approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions on that? Any questions on the ordinance in alignment with state statute? Okay. Seeing none then? Seeing none, we'll go into public comments here to close out the meeting. Any public comments? Any public comments? I just wanted to do one quick thank you then as we're heading out the door here to Main Street Association, those of you who were able to come to the unveiling of the art last week. That was phenomenal. That sparked an awful lot of downtown business owners asking about adding murals onto their buildings, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. There will be one just to our east here that will be announced soon that is going to basically be a 50-foot by 20-foot version of our city flag. So Ben will once again have another unveiling. All right. So with that, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a motion moved and seconded? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Go Pirates. This meeting is adjourned.